Hi, welcome to the Crea8ve Podcast. Glad you're here today. Hi, Julie. How are you?
I'm doing great, Juli. Thanks. How are you?
I am super. I'm super. I'm so happy that we could have a conversation today.
Let's chat.
Yeah, I wanted to have a chat with you because, what I know about you is you are a powerful woman who's done some amazing things in her life. And subtly too, because, we always look at people with what they might have done, like on their resume, or they're out in the media, maybe they're on television, or they're on a radio show, or they're doing some big things, making big splashes. But there's something about you that I thought would be really nice to have a conversation about with just a little bit of your approach to your life and how you've just been able to keep going and find new, almost like you reinvent yourself, I think is something that I'm actually pretty impressed by. So I wanted to share a little bit of you to the audience today. So thanks for joining.
Thanks, Juli.
Welcome to the Crea8ve. This is the new podcast, the Crea8ve, and we're all creative beings. So I see you as not only an amazing creative, but also a really good friend. So I'm really happy.
Thank you. Ditto, likewise.
So I'll start off with a question, and then we can just go there. So it's kind of a broad question. What do you think might be one thing in your life that you feel really proud of or grateful of, or something that you feel you're glad you did it, or you're glad you went through that?
I think what it always comes back to for me is a set of values, personal values, and I attribute them to my mother. Thank you very much. And it was always to show up and do your best, no matter what. And that no matter if it's the porter or the president, that everybody deserves respect and consideration, and that we all put our pants on one leg at a time. And I feel like those values as a platform for me to show up in all areas of my life have been a driving force. And so when I could take shortcuts because nobody was looking, I didn't. And when I could, when there was an opportunity maybe to not do my best, I don't think that that's ever been my approach. And it served me well. As you know, I had a very successful career in retail, and that wasn't my life plan as a career. But people noticed a hardworking, ethical, do the right thing when nobody was looking kid in me. And so I think that that's been the guiding light. And it's only now looking back that I see that as what's really been a part of me always.
Tell me, let's just go there for a minute, because I will bring us forward to today, but I just want to go back there for a minute when you were a success in retail. What was it that you felt was your success there?
What was my success there? Well, I was a hard worker. And I was good to people no matter what their title was. And probably especially, not to disparage a porter, but just to use that as an example, as like an entry level into many types of businesses. But I always gave due respect to everybody and treated everybody kindly. And honestly, I feel like that was it. We can all learn how to do technical stuff. We can all show up to work. But at the end of the day, it really is relationships and how we make people feel. And I think that I got some good people in the corner for me, rooting for me and supporting my growth at work.
Yeah, relationships, our ability to influence through relationships and people and how people come together is a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think I understood the power of influence. I think I was trying to do the right thing. It ended up putting me in a leadership position.
So let's go there for a sec. That's really interesting. Like, so you've tied, so how you became a leader in that field, what I'm hearing you say is it had a lot to do with how you were able to build those relationships.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I worked for a company that had 22,000 employees and I made it to director of a department. There was one spot for that position. And I needed people, I needed support. I needed sponsors. I needed mentors. And I needed people to want to follow my directions. And so my style, my personality isn't one that's authoritative. It's not who I am. So yeah, it's relationships, building relationships and respect.
It's amazing. So you were at this level, being a director with many people doing great things. Can you think back at a time where you felt as a woman in this field, where you said you needed a mentor or mentors, like what areas for, people looking at you going, you're a leader, right? But what, as the leader, what were you needing in order to feel like you could be that leader? Was there anything that you were looking for as a woman in leadership?
I think in real time, I didn't know what that was. And all of my mentors were always men.
Interesting.
Much older men. And today's age, I think that, I think that the younger generation is much more aware of, I think it's more balanced. I don't think it's such a man's world anymore.
Right.
Really, I would go to a meeting with 30 people and be the only woman.
Right.
My mentors were all women. So I think once I landed in a leadership role and my approach was to be like the men that I was emulating, it didn't work, was when I realized I probably needed some female energy to help me be my best.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to do that experience over, and I know we're gonna move from there in a minute, but just if you were to do that experience over, what do you think would be something you would do, or the way you would act, or maybe a desire of how the world around you could have been, if it to have felt even more empowered as a leader?
I didn't work well in the gray area. And I think part of that was just the masculine energy around me or influence around me. Everything was black and white. And I believe that there's an expectation with women to be more nurturing. And I don't know if that's less my personality. It's kind of a dichotomy what I'm saying, about relationships before, but I can be very pedantic and black and white. And maybe I had some female influence in the professional world, I could have worked better in the gray area, not had to just be all masculine energy at work.
Mm-hmm.
Long run wasn't sustainable. It wasn't me.
Right. You're not your true self. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So cut to the next phase in your life. I want to go to where you actually decided to go out on your own and build your own business. Can you tell us about that? Because I think I love that piece of you, but that's where I met you. So tell me a little bit.
This is where we met.
Yeah.
This is where we met. So I had 30 years in my career with a big retailer, and it wasn't working for me anymore. And I started seeking different philosophies about life, and values were shifting before my eyes, and the pace of 70-hour work weeks didn't leave room for me to dream. Mm-hmm. And I left the gig, and I didn't have a plan. Mm-hmm. And the question that was begging to be answered in my heart and soul was, if you could work for free, if it wasn't about money, how would you spend your time? What would you do?
What a great question. What a great question.
And that was really it. That was my guiding light. And it was, at the time, I would work with animals.
Yeah.
I would work with animals. And I had a friend who was a successful dog groomer, making great money. And I said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go for it. And
awesome. So what did you do? Tell us what you did. What were the first steps? It must have been incredibly daunting, apart from the fact that dogs are amazing.
Right. So the first step was to go to dog grooming school and realize that I was so out of my realm, my comfort zone. I mean, clipping dogs' nails and dogs crying and dogs don't want to be there. It wasn't the fantasy I had imagined of cuddling dogs and giving them a bath and brushing their hair and having a good time. They didn't want to be there. But I did, and I was determined to create a dog grooming business where dogs wanted to come back, and that it wouldn't be the typical grooming salon that I had seen my dogs for years run from and not want to go to. So I went to dog grooming school, and I was pretty business savvy. And I just took what I knew in business and did a lot of research on how to build a website, how to do your own marketing, how to target a specific demographic, what age group I wanted. And then I converted my garage at my house and I built a business.
Yeah.
Grooming dogs in my backyard. And to supplement that, I was renting out a room in my house to women traveling on Airbnb. And I just went from this crazy, rigid 14-hour day work days, never home, to hosting international cosmopolitan women traveling the world. And, after giving them coffee and toast, going in the garage and grooming dogs. And it didn't end up being what I thought it would be, but what it did do was help me really get in touch with my own nervous system, which was incredibly healing. And just seeing like what a tight grip. I was so high strung from this intense job I'd had my whole life.
Yeah.
And that type of touch on a dog doesn't help them relax, and had to learn to calm myself. And the dogs were always a reflection of what I was internally. So yeah. And I was able to build a business and did pretty good. It was.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you really did become successful, but it's really interesting just hearing back what you're saying. Because first of all, you said you asking the question about, money versus something that is going to be of joy for you.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, we'll talk about money in a minute, but I'm curious. You said also healing as well, and you mentioned things about going from this corporate America to this whole different thing, and I could see your face is just lighting up as you're telling this story about working with dogs and working with travelers. So what was the difference? Even though I'm also hearing, because you had to completely reinvent yourself, you had to learn how to groom.
Yeah.
You're starting all over again, right? Yeah. But there's this sort of joy that I'm seeing in your face. Yeah. We just saw a cat walk by Julie's face just there. I love it.
The love of animals lives on.
Yeah.
I think it was the first time that I got to show up as me. Walk into a boardroom. I didn't have to walk into the president's office, the CEO's office, in an outfit that I would never wear to happy hour or to your party. I mean, it was the first time to be authentic.
Yeah.
To really say, who is the customer I want to work with and who don't I want to work with? And how do I design that? Like, how do I design a life that I want? And I did it. And it was super scary and rewarding beyond. I met people that I never would have met, ever met. I just put myself out there in ways that were exhilarating.
Yeah, it totally is in your expression. Just this whole, it's so exciting when you can follow kind of more like a passion,
right? And
then, which is really my whole kick about this and why we're here, but like following a passion and being more authentic to yourself, not having to try and fit into someone else's shoes or pretend to be something else. Right. So tell us a little bit about the monetization side of it, because I think this is where I have a whole perspective on like what is money really like. What are we really trying to make as money, and should a hobby should is it a hobby or is it actually a business? For me in the music business, I've always had to justify that I'm in business versus just a hobby, right? And I've always felt like, well, if I can break even, that's business to me, because you've got to put some money out, make some money in, and it may not be $1 million, but it's at least it's living a life, right? So maybe just share whatever you want to share there, how you feel about that and where you got to in the best part of that business for you.
I didn't see that part coming.
Okay.
I didn't. It's been almost 7 years, and there's a luxury to making good money. There's status, and there's just an aspect of life that comes with having financial security and a lot of fat in the bank. That for me, a lot for me. This is all relative, right?
Yeah, that's really what I want to get to. Well, what's that relative for you?
Say that again.
That's what I want to get to. What is relative to you? Meaning, like, for others, it could be they want a certain amount and they need to be able to have that money and buy new things.
Yeah.
But you running your own business that you enjoyed, did you find a place of balance financially as well, or was it a struggle, or what do you want to share there? Because I want to get real on this, because some of us tend to pretend, even myself, that everything's great because I'm making music, but yet we could be feeling like we're struggling, but yet we could be at a job making money and also struggling.
There you go. There you go. That's it, really. I mean, I wish I had a simple answer. There's been a lot of grieving about the money. Excuse me.
It's good. They're part of this interview.
They are.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well,
grieving.
I like to spend money. I've always had new cars. I always had, nice outfits, nails, vacations, whatever I wanted to do, I had that freedom. And then at the same time, I was empty inside. And so the flip side is I don't have, it's very complicated. The whole money thing is very complicated. I've had to make tough decisions to support a life that isn't with a big abundance of cash, but to also stay true to, I want my time now. And it's hard to remember that right now, it's not both. I don't have freedom of time and a bunch of abundance with cash. But what I want is my time and my experience. And I want to go to yoga. I want to play with my dogs. And I don't want to do what you have to do to make a lot of money.
Yeah. So there's a trade-off, right?
There's a trade-off. And really, like, it's been really hard to, it's a lot of work to be mindful of the decisions I've made, and also to be really truthful to that. I've spent a lot of time looking back and saying, did I ruin my life? What did I do? Like, these opportunities don't just come all the time, to make a lot of money. But I've never been happier. I've never been healthier, never taken better care of myself, just by virtue, not by virtue, but by virtue, let's just say, some bad lifestyle habits I had have fallen away.
Yeah, amazing.
I think it's a coincidence. So
it's amazing. And I think that, when I hear you, I see so much strength in you, like to have been able to overcome obstacles, to go out on your own, to make these bigger decisions of going from a comfort and playing the game in corporate America versus taking care of yourself, healing, following what feels good for you. And there's always that trade-off, right? Like that, and that's the balance that we all have to try and find. If you were to look back now, knowing that you've had, and we didn't even go to other experiences that you've had, but we just used these two as an example. But looking back, what do you think would be the significant success for you? What is success to you now, even?
Like, you're asking me what my definition of success is now?
Yeah.
I think it's inner peace. It's peace and it's authenticity and having a few good friends, your family. And if you can have that and then make money to boot, that, the money is the gravy. The money is the gravy. It's not the wealth. Like, the wealth is our health. It's our well-being. Success is, gosh, if I look at somebody, who has their own business and isn't working 60 hours a week, I don't know how, I'm not sold that anybody can work 60 hours a week and show up for themselves,
right,
and those around them. Like, I don't know how that's done. And for me, looking back, it really was a coping mechanism to be distracted from my own healing.
Wow, now we're getting somewhere. This is interesting. Now we're getting somewhere. This is interesting where you're going here.
Yeah.
Do you think some of the choices that you made in, let's just put it as a statement, like the corporate America 60-hour week leadership position was perhaps distracting you from the core of what you really needed to focus on, that healing piece? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Ask me again. Say that again.
Do you think that being that corporate America 60-hour a week girl was a distraction to what you really needed to focus on, which was that healing and who you are, where you needed to go?
Absolutely. 100%. And, there was a million ways I could have distracted myself. And I think I'm pretty grateful that it was in this Fortune 100 company where I, as different as it could have been, I was surrounded by a bunch of people that really believed in me. And it was an incredible journey. It was an incredible journey to be dealing with millions of dollars in revenue and loss and profit and, legal and compliance. I mean, just all aspects of business. It was an amazing run. It was fantastic. And it worked while it worked. It was good while it was good. And I was young, and I think part of not being young anymore is time is ticking and what really matters. And are you being your best? Are you showing up as your best? And the answer was yes for a long time, I think, whether I agree looking back in retrospect, but it stopped working.
If you were able to go back to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell her?
Oh my gosh. It's
a tough one, huh?
Oh my gosh. I would make sure she knew how smart she was. My 18-year-old self just didn't know that I was so smart, or she was so smart. So it would have been to stay in school and then get the first degree and then get the second degree and get the third degree and probably open her heart. Yeah. It was, work is easy. Work is there's rules, everybody needs to behave in a certain way. And I liked that. I liked that structure. But yeah, I would have made sure she knew she was super special and that she didn't have to worry how people thought of her and just to be her best. And yeah. How do you create a safe vessel to honor your past, your trauma, the misfortunes, the mistakes, and discharge that and heal? And I think if there's any regrets is that I couldn't do that while I had my job and that I had to give up that career to do the work. But I'm so grateful for the peace I have. I've never had this before. And it's, you are, if there's 3 people that have showed up in this new life of mine that are shining stars, you're one of them. And really, you were my first friend that lived a life that I admired and that was different from what I had known before. So if I was to go back to my 18-year-old self or talk to any other person, it is that we all have work to do and create that space for yourself to explore and discharge and keep your heart open and love. Yeah.
And for the, for young girls who are becoming women in this world where we're always striving to be something, what would you want to say to them based on what you've learned?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I don't, I say this, I'm just going to say this without any fluff, but we are not immune to the conditioning of society, and that we come with, by the time we're 5 years old, we're so conditioned, and it's just, we build and build and build, whether it's gender roles or school roles, family roles. And, how do you, we just pick up these personalities in childhood or teenage years or young adulthood, and they serve a purpose. And then we become attached to them. And they don't serve us forever. Like, we're always evolving. And how do we just, I guess, understand that we are very conditioned, and we pick up roles and we assume the position because we want to be liked, we want to be accepted, we want to be whatever it is we want to be. And sometimes we lose ourselves in that. And yeah, how do you just keep coming back to a place where you can examine what's going on and what's that dialogue between your ears?
Almost like, how do we stay authentic? How do we stay true to our true selves?
Yeah.
As we do things in life, as we take on jobs, as we become who we are, and not lose that sense of self.
I mean, if you would have asked me when I was 30, like, if I would have heard what I just said when I was 30, it just wouldn't have resonated. I couldn't have connected with it. I didn't believe that I was not being authentic. And I was being authentic, but I was also carrying a bunch of baggage around, except it wasn't mine. And I didn't even know it. And so that's why, like, I hesitate when I say, what would you say to younger people? Because I just, for me, it didn't come until this time in life where it made sense that I was carrying stuff around that wasn't mine, or that was mine. And it worked really good when I was 25. I needed that, but it doesn't work anymore. And I don't need to hold on to that. And I can let the universe recycle that for somebody else where it's needed. And so, yeah.
So fast forward, you're like, I don't know, 80.
Yeah.
Where are you? What are you doing? If you think about it in your future.
Oh, God.
What would you have liked to have said to Julie back, when you're 80, going, okay, where am I at now?
Oh my gosh, when I'm 80, let's see, Jackson and Natalie will be like almost 40.
They're my kids. Oh my God, I can't even imagine that they are gonna be 40 then.
And hopefully we'll still be as good of friends as we were when they were 4.
Yeah.
And I think that's the person that, like, at this time of life, like, how do I make 8-year-old me proud? And how do I take care of 80-year-old me that I don't have regrets? Like, there's still a little girl in me, like, let's go. Like, let's do this. And then I'm going to be 80 and hopefully I'll be 80, right?
Yeah. I mean, I imagine with good health and all that yoga and mountain climbing.
Yeah.
It's almost like, are we, is there anything else we really need to prove? Do we need to prove anything in our lives?
No.
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 Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah. But I remember doing that all the time though. That was my thing. Like I felt like I had to prove myself all through ever since I was really young, and then 20s and 30s and getting into the 40s, I was like still feeling like I had to prove to the world that I was this something and I could do this and make this money and be successful. And at the time for me, it was like being on the radio and getting a Grammy and in business and being an executive and and then we're just kind of wasting our energy just trying to prove to people that these they, them, the others, who are these people we're trying to prove to?
It's very bizarre. And I feel like, is it just the human condition? Like, is that just what we do? And then we reach a stage in life and realize that like that served us then. It was like a charging force. And now, I don't know. I wonder if that's just part of life, is that we're finding our way and chasing dreams. And
the dream part I love, like dreaming big. And you said that too, you can have whatever you want. I'm totally with you there. Like I believe in that. And I've always been about that. And I think it's a survivalist instinct to want to show the world or do something in the world. But, this whole pandemic and just where we're at in the world too, it makes me think, what are we trying to prove? Whether you are a corporate leader or you run a cheese factory or you're a dog groomer or what do we really, it's like what do we really want out of life?
I think the pandemic has brought that question to the forefront and completely changed the landscape of being a leader, of running a business, of attracting good help. What is good help? How do you keep good help? It's a brand new day and people aren't just hanging out for a job.
That's right. In fact, we can reinvent our job.
That's right.
It's like we don't have to go into the office anymore. We can decide where we want to live and work and have a balance with the work-life balance, and people are getting out of LA and New York and the main cities and moving to small towns because they can work remotely and also pursue passions and be with their family and not just be a workaholic 60 hours a week working for someone else.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting around your podcast here and moving up here to Bellingham, Washington, from Los Angeles, where I was born and raised, loved the city. I loved the nightlife. I loved the music scene. Is coming here and nobody wears makeup. The girls, like everybody looks like they just came off of a mountain.
Right. Well, they look amazing though.
and like it's the neatest, smartest, most interesting people you meet all the time. And I'm fascinated by it. Like there's a lot of tech people, like, Costco was invented here. Starbucks was, Microsoft, Amazon, the list goes on of really smart, successful entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of money, but there's the glitz, the glamour, like that doesn't fly here. It's almost like you're a freak, And so like to get to that part in LA, sort of, you have to like kind of have a game face.
Right. LA was all about like what you dress, how you wear, what's the stage name, who you know, who you're attached to, what are you wearing? Yeah.
Where do you live? Yeah, it's very interesting here to see the difference in values.
Yeah.
And like they're really smart people and like kind and just a whole different scene. And so it's been refreshing. I'm not driving a Subaru yet. So
Driving a Subaru. No.
I feel like I'll always be a city girl and love the city life and all that comes with it. But it is refreshing here to see a difference in values.
Yeah.
And how people walk through the world.
Yeah, it's almost like a getting back to basics, and again, that word, the authenticity of just being that true self. Like you don't have to pretend, show up with you. Yeah. Badass Juli. She's a badass. For the listeners today, what would you want them to take away from our conversation today for their own journey?
Oh gosh, I mean, to learn how to get quiet with yourself. I think there's so much juiciness in going inward and getting quiet and tuning into the inner voice that we all have. The answers are all inside. They're not, everything we seek is really in us. And I think that's been the biggest treat that I've learned is I don't have to, it's inside. It's an inside job.
Right. Yeah. We often are looking to people around us or things around us or key milestones around us or the money around us or the successes around us. But what you're saying is it's really within.
Yeah.
Well, how do you go within now? What are your creative things and passions, and how do you do that? What do you like to do now? I know that you're living up in the in Washington. Tell us a little bit about some of those things.
Well, we're surrounded by huge mountains, volcano mountains, Mount Rainier, Mount Baker. They're 14,000 feet tall. So I've taken up a new hobby of hiking.
Wonderful. You take the dogs?
They don't go. No, we do. It's like no less than 8 miles and 2,000 feet elevation gain.
Oh my God, that's a lot of work.
It's a lot. It's a whole different world than a city girl. And it's incredible how beautiful nature is and just what it does to your sense of everything. Yeah. You're just surrounded by massiveness. So that's one thing. But the other thing has been yoga. And
I've always known you as someone into yoga, actually.
Yeah. That was the biggest gift. Was I had gone to a local studio in Sherman Oaks and was on their marketing list for 20 years. I would go, once a year, I would take a class, and I opened the email and there was a work trade offer. And I had just left my corporate gig, and I thought, what better way to get involved with a new community? Trying to find my way. Like, where do I go now that I'm not corporate Juli? I just opened that email, and there it was. And that really has been the catalyst for authenticity, is finding that quiet time, feeling just old stuff break up in yoga, literally, just like, it's like taking a bottle brush and just like cleaning out your limbs.
Cleaning out the cobwebs, yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably my biggest ticket, is doing yoga and hanging out with my dogs.
Yeah, I was going to say, so, we all have learned that you're a dog lover. How do you interact with dogs these days? Because you're on to the next entrepreneurial pursuit. But how many dogs do you have? What kind of dogs? I'm sure we want to know what kind of dogs you like too.
I have 2 dogs, Ella and Earl, 12. And I actually was going to work at 4:30 in the morning because that's what I do. And I got off the freeway and these 2 little dogs ran across the street. And I got them in my car and they weren't chipped. And fast forward a couple of weeks of trying to reconnect them, get them with their people. It was unsuccessful, and they're mine. And really, they changed the trajectory. I've never had any, I haven't had dogs since I was a kid, but the kindness of a dog is unmatched. And the kindness and the compassion, the love, the forgiveness, the joy, they are just so pure of goodness.
Yeah, they are.
You know, I guess like the question is like, how do you show up and be as good as your dogs think you are?
How do you show up as good as your dogs? That's a good title for this podcast. How do you show up as good as your dogs?
Right? Yeah. Oh.
Amazing. Yeah, I remember when I first met you, because we lived in the same neighborhood. You would be going through the streets with Ella and Earl, with your two dogs, on these long leashes. And she doesn't have the retractable leash. She has the traditional rope leash.
Yeah.
And I remember going for a walk with her once with our dog Bella, and Julie's like, come for the walk with us. And I'm like, okay, cool. She's just going to go around the block. No, it's like, I don't know, maybe an hour through the streets of Sherman Oaks. We went on a hike.
Right? I remember.
It's like, okay, this is not an ordinary dog person here.
Oh, Gilli, it was because your company was so good.
I know, we should talk about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it was a good company. I said, let's just keep walking.
Yeah. Awesome. It's been a pleasure to chat with you today, Miss Juli. And I was going to ask you, I always play some music now. Before we choose the song, what kind of music do you like to listen to? Just in general.
Well, my favorite music is like dance house music.
Wow, cool.
Which is really funny.
Were you one of those house dancers, like doing the whole house?
I was because yes. And it's funny. I live in a college town now. And last weekend, it was Halloween weekend, and somebody talked me into going out, and we went down to the clubs, and the music was so loud. I was so happy dancing. Like, I love loud music and I love to dance. But a new genre of music that I do enjoy living here in the Pacific Northwest is it called mountain music, or like fiddle, banjo? Oh,
like kind of country or folk, or
maybe folk. It's definitely not country.
Okay.
But it's like banjo, fiddle.
Yeah.
I think they call it mountain
bluegrass, maybe.
Yeah. I think that's the common name. Yeah.
Oh, nice. That's fun.
And I like to listen to classical. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I listen to Gilli Moon.
Yeah, that's great. Well, speaking of that, what song am I going to play today?
Well, I was thinking, because it is the beginning of November.
I know where you're going with this.
You do?
Yeah.
What's the name of the song?
Days of November. All right. Let's play Days of November. We'll come back after the song. All right. Days of November.
Days in November, traveling long, finding the wisdom in every song, taking a journey through open white plains, guided by moonlight, keeping me sane, searching for answers in every town, sending back postcards of lessons I found, taking the moment to find inner peace, crossing the rivers of childhood memories. I remember dreaming with you
All right. That was Days of November, one of my songs that I wrote when I was touring with Eric Idle, actually, from Monty Python. And we were traveling on a bus going through all these different states of America. And we were up near Winnipeg, I think, and we were just going through lots of snow country. And,
Oh, wow.
And so I remember just writing all these words down as we're going through. Juli, it's been an absolute pleasure to hang out with you.
Thanks, Gilli.
Likewise. Thank you for sharing your history and your entrepreneurship. Your vulnerability as a woman in business, both in corporate America and building a business. I think there was a subtle hints there that you said about, running your own business. And I think for folks who are listening, it's not easy, right? It's not an easy thing. No.
You're faced with tough decisions all the time.
Yeah. But you're not alone, right? There's a lot of people, especially coming out of the pandemic too, who I call it like a renaissance again, where we're trying to find our place again, finding new things to do, new ways to work, new passions. How do we survive? Like we went through a really big thing, kind of traumatic, right? These last few years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where to next?
Pardon?
Where to next for you?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think that the key for me is to network and to put myself out there. Some days I say, I'm going to get a new job. I'm going to go back for the money. I'm super savvy in business. I'm educated. I've got a ton of experience. And the universe doesn't respond in kind to me sending out my resume. It just hasn't been a match. But I do believe that I am a good fit for a business somewhere. And I think that I'll end up back in business.
I was just going to say, this is like a 360 then, or a 180, maybe we call it.
I think so. I think so.
What, that's so fascinating. I do want to go there for a minute. So you were in business, corporate America, working for others. Then you went into running your own business, being entrepreneurial, following your passions. And now you kind of, and I did kind of cut you off when we were talking about pandemic, but it seems like there's a shift in you to re-look at working in business again.
Well, I just, I would love, my fantasy is that you can have it all. Have it all. And I feel like I've done a lot of work, and I want to go see how that can play out.
Yeah.
I mean, how can I bring this new me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like I'm a grown-up now, and have a lot to offer. I mean, it's nice to play small, and that's a whole other thing. Are you playing small, or are you? Yeah, we'll see. I think the idea is to keep putting myself out there, meeting new people, looking at the businesses around. I spend some time volunteering in different ways, and I imagine that that'll open doors. So just trying to take creative avenues to get out in the world and see how I can participate.
Amazing. You touched on some really great things today. Some of the things that I heard were going within, that you have everything inside you for where you need to be. I also, we really reflected on some of the things that we thought was success, like corporate America, that being a leader, managing all those people, the money versus being with dogs and finding passion and enjoying that, going within, and the yoga. And that was amazing, that piece. And even now, like giving yourself permission to go and reinvent yourself again. And it's okay to do that. And you can have it all. That's just such an amazing statement, Juli. Very inspiring.
You're very inspiring. I'd love to turn the tables and give the listeners an opportunity to tell about you, because that's a really good story.
Maybe you can interview me next one in the next.
I would love to. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah. I tell people all the time. Yeah. For the listeners, yes. All the way. But you have an incredible journey that you've lived. Beautiful family and success and creativity and music, art. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the place where we need to find that balance, right? We can't not do that.
Right.
We can't not have our passion, our music, our art, our yoga, our dogs, our mountains. We have to find that, like you just said earlier, how can you be there for others if you're in a big way, if you're doing 60 hours a week working for someone, right? Like there's got to be that balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're all a work in progress.
That's right. That's right. The work is never going to end. No. It's over.
Yeah. That's amazing. Cool. Well, so nice to chat.
Thanks, Juli.
I'll have you back when you next find your next creative outlet. I can't wait to bring you back, and we'll have to talk about that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
We'll talk soon. Bye.
Come and join us at Crea8ve.com, Crea8ve.com, or find us on social, or find me, Gilli Moon. See you soon.